You're going to continue for a bit in the back, and then we'll have questions later on.
Carlo, would you like to add this about the Confederacy?
Yeah, I'm not for sure, but the Confederacy of the State of the South has got some bond emission with collateral in cotton, because there was some agreement with France and England for the selling of American cotton to the European market. I found out something interesting on the internet, and I'm going to print it out so everybody of us can read it. Maybe so tomorrow will be, or in this afternoon, more discussion about it. But the problem is that there was disruption in the production of the cotton, and also the fact that more competitors came from Mexico and other places, so the price started moving up and down. Raising gold in exchange for cotton was more difficult, and at the end the Confederacy went into hyperinflation, emitting paper money. But I wouldn't know, but I have to learn more, and then we can discuss about it.
Okay. Further questions?
Any further questions? Rudy?
So I think what Paolo said was they had income through the means of cotton, but not a direct gold income. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah.
And then the price crashed.
Yeah.
That's the problem with quickly declining marginal utility.
I want to be sure before statement.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
All right. Well, let me continue then, and perhaps at the end we'll have another chance to ask questions. So I carried the story up to the point that there was a Coinage Act in the United States, 1873, very important date in the history of money, and especially the history of bimetallism. A very curious thing happened. The Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, mentions and even defines the dollar, the silver dollar, which at that time was known as pieces of 8. They were coins minted in Spain and Spanish possessions in America, in Central and South America. These coins are described in the Constitution, and there is just no question about it that that everybody knew what the dollar was, and so you might say this is the constitutional dollar, the monetary unit, the only monetary unit which is defined in the Constitution. Now, the mint, according to the Constitution, should also be open to gold, but no gold coin was specified by the Constitution. And bimetallism, which means fixed bimetallic ratio, was not in the Constitution, which shows the wisdom of the founding fathers. They thought that the ratio between gold and silver should be fixed by the people, or not fixed, but determined. And if the ratio changes, so be it. And it was another Coinage Act, an earlier one, 1792, which introduced the fixed bimetallic ratio, legal bimetallic ratio. The idea is that the U.S. Treasury should make the two metals exchangeable, so you could take silver to the treasury or the mint and get gold for it, and vice versa, at that fixed ratio, which was a very bad mistake, because as the market ratio between the gold price and the silver price changed, varied, the movement of gold and silver started, and at the expense of the treasury, speculators could drive out one metal from circulation and bring in the other, and vice versa. And the effect was that the two metals, the two monetary metals, were flowing back and forth between the mint and the refinery. When the market ratio of gold and silver rose, which meant that the gold price increased relative to the silver price, then gold was undervalued at the mint. Is that correct? Yeah. So because gold was undervalued on this scenario, then gold was undervalued at the mint. That meant that the other metal was overvalued, and because it was overvalued, it stopped flowing to the mint, and in fact speculators found it profitable to melt them down and export it. So that's when silver flowed to the refinery, and when it turned around, then silver flowed back and gold went to the refinery. So this was a flip-flop system, not a stable system. It was once a gold standard and once a silver standard, but never for any length of time a true bimetallic system, because of this flip-flop. Okay, and the speculators took advantage of fixed bimetallic ratio, which was at the expense of the treasury, which wasn't the intention. So this was a mistake. Not made by the Constitution, but by the Coinage Act of 1792. All right. Now then, we are already at 1873, so let's see what happened to the system after this very dubious, I might even say trick, of dropping the constitutional silver dollar, the only standard silver coin from the list of authorized coins. Well, I already suggested that this in effect meant the demonetization of silver without using the word. You know, I mean, it would have been more honest if the title of the act is demonetization of silver, or closing the mint to silver, because you would immediately see what was going on. But as I say, it was buried in the act by simply omitting a coin from the list of authorized coins. It's really underhanded if you think of it. Now, there are these two stories then. In Europe, Germany, victor in the Franco-Prussian War, demonetizing silver openly, announcing to the world not only that the mint is close to silver, but also that the melted down silver coins will be sold on the silver market. So that information was available to the public. On the other side of the ocean, in the United States, there was also a demonetization of silver, but underhanded, not publicly discussed. You almost had to be an expert to realize that that's what it amounts to. And that was 2 years later, and these were both countries which came out of a war victoriously and so on, and they both demonetized silver, closed the mint to silver. So the general explanation given to the world was that these two wounds, as it were, suffered by silver was enough to put this tremendous pressure on the silver price, which from a low of 15 took the bimetallic ratio, the market ratio, to 100 in say 60 years' time. It's a tremendous loss of value, because you have to think it's about, silver lost about 4/5 of its market value, but it was not just simply loss of value, but it was a loss of liquidity. Silver was a monetary metal, and this meant that it has an unlimited market, and at the official price you can sell as much silver as you want without affecting the price. And there were only two monetary metals, gold and silver, and that means that we are dealing with a very special property of the monetary metals, this unlimited market. Other producers had to be very careful with marketing, because if they sold too much, the price immediately showed a weakness. Whereas if you sold silver, you didn't have to worry at all about consequences such as weakness in the silver price. That was the case before. Now, after such a softness in the price of silver that people in the industry, the silver mining industry, were actually very much concerned about this possible weakness, because if the silver price keeps falling, then it means that the market capacity of the market to absorb the output of the silver mines was going to be eroded. Very damaging outlook for the silver miner. And here's something which is not generally realized. What happened was, as a consequence of this, the silver miners got scared and they resorted to a competitive mining. There's a word when you abuse
exhaustive mining.
Race to the bottom. Race to the bottom.
Yeah, race to the bottom. But when you overexploit your resources.
High grading. High grading, taking the higher grades first.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What was the one word you
High grade, high grade.
Yeah, higher grade. So normally a silver miner and also a gold miner mines the lower grades first, because it's not the immediate profit which they want to maximize, but they want to maximize the working life of the mine. And how do they do this? They do it by getting after the lowest grade first, lowest payable, I should say, okay, the marginal grade of ore, and mine it first and sell it first. And the top grades you reserve to the very end, so that that's the most economical way of using your resource. Starting with the marginal grade and then working up towards the top grade. But now, if you have a soft market, if you have a falling price, then all the silver miners will switch to the top grade, the highest grade of ore, and then getting down and down. And in fact, it's a competitive situation, because if you are a silver miner and I am a silver miner, we watch each other because we want to sell first. Because if you sell second, then you get a lower price for your product. So you see, this is a situation which is self-destructing. You are as a silver miner, you are destructing your own resources much faster than a reasonable, stable situation would allow. And as a result, the silver mines will be exhausted prematurely. And you are facing a situation that you destroy your own resources. Now, and that's what I say, that is not commonly observed, that this is the reason for the fact. It's a fact that today most of the silver production of the world comes from as a secondary product, as a byproduct of other mining interests such as copper and nickel and whatever else, and even gold, you know. But primary silver mine, where the main output is silver, for a long time just disappeared because of this competitive mining. Killed the goose which was laying the golden egg. I use this phrase to describe the situation that the silver mines, in competing with one another, trying to put all this extra, always use the highest grade of ore to mine. They killed their industry. All the silver mines, all the silver output which remained came from, as a byproduct from copper mines and other mines. As a primary producer of silver, the industry was destroyed, which is a very unfortunate situation. And that's the explanation. It's a fact that now today is a little different because we have now a silver price which has recovered some, according to experts. It's still just the very beginning. Silver has a much greater potential. But the point is that now we have a few, could you name a few silver mines which are primary?
Yes, there's Coeur d'Alene
in
Idaho.
Idaho.
In the United States. There's a company called Fortuna Silver Mines in Mexico. You have Agnico Eagle mines all across Canada.
But you see, the point is that very soon the list
ends.
There's very few. Now there was this fantastic silver discovery in the United States in about 1858, the Comstock Lode in Nevada. And even that was pretty well exhausted prematurely. So there it is. This was just another result. In what I'm trying to say here is that this was an unprecedented situation. And it is so unique and so conspicuous that these standard explanations just don't, they are not convincing. And when I studied this question of the German demonetization of silver and the American demonetization of silver, I came to the conclusion that the whole story is not yet known. And the big unknown question is whether it was a spontaneous, whether it was the mistake they made, because it was a mistake in 1873 that they dropped the standard silver dollar from the list of authorized coins. And was this done on purpose, or was it a mistake? I'm not convinced that it was it was a mistake. The explanation is that they took the list of silver coins from an earlier coinage act of 1853, and a clerk in the treasury, subaltern clerk in the treasury, copied the list from the old coinage act to the new, and by mistake he forgot to copy the standard silver dollar. You know, wow, that's a very poor explanation. I mean, there are armies of lawyers at the disposal of the House and the disposal of the Senate, and ultimately the President has to sign the legislation, and he has an army of lawyers, and they all have to go through the proposed bill, word by word, sentence by sentence. And if they ask you to believe that by mistake they didn't notice that omission, that's too much to ask to believe. Well, I guess it's 12 o'clock, so we adjourn. And I think we'll continue this after the break, because the story goes on, and it's, I find it interesting. Kind of detective work, what was done and why.
Thanks very much, Professor.